Hi, welcome to UnCommie Goods. I'm Lars. This is episode 36, the BlackRock PushBack. So if you're watching YouTube or listening to on some sort of podcast platform, please subscribe, hit like, give a positive 5-star review. It helps spread the mission about supporting American principles of free enterprise, American-made goods. In fact, right now, if you're watching on YouTube or whatever video platform, I'm drinking from a double hold steel um, vessel that allows you to keep your drinks cold and warm. And I just learned that there is no single American manufacturer of double hold or double walled insulated drinking vessels made out of stainless steel in America. You have to get them made in China. So what can you do? Anyway, the tea tastes good. So this is a series I'm thinking about emphasizing a little bit more going forward, like kind of an enemy within. It's easy to talk about, supporting American-made products, things made from small businesses, fighting, boycotting Chinese-made goods. But what about the enemy within? This is, ideas and principles, supporting un-American ideas and concepts, and trying to ruin our way of life. And unfortunately, we find these within our borders, and working their way and pushing these concepts through us, through society, job works, companies, everywhere. And so there are these huge, powerful forces, well funded at work to undermine, as I mentioned earlier, that American spirit and character of success based on, merit, hard work, free enterprise, and earning your way through life. The American spirit, get a job, work hard, save, invest, be successful. You earned it, pat on the back. It's getting harder and harder to do that these days. And you might have noticed, like nearly every single corporation, they spend an inordinate amount of time on ridiculous woke nonsense. If you've noticed that, you're not mistaken. It's everywhere. Woke is becoming a corporate initiative. It's inescapable. And as I mentioned earlier, there are powerful forces foisting this un-American ideology upon us. And say you're a company that makes software for auto mechanics to manage their inventory of spare parts and their profits. I don't know. And all of a sudden, you're being told you have to, what's your racial justice score? What's your environmental? You're like, hey, I'm running a small business here. I don't have time for this, right? It's reducing the effectiveness and competitiveness of companies. They're spending too much time on unessential business. They should be focused on building the best product they can, treating everybody fairly, not being mean to anybody, and being as effective in business, best price, um, and serving their customers. That's really what we should do. So about this woke nonsense. It's called ESG, environmental and social governance, in DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Um, so I'm seeing this everywhere, and I came across this recent article from Jordan Schactel. He's an independent journalist, and I'm a paying subscriber to a few independent journalists out there. I find them trustworthy because they're not beholden to certain advertisers or some SJW, social justice warrior, editor or producer that has their own agenda, their own twisted view on objective reality. Whose mission is to change the world. Speaking of change the world, I just remember this. I went to a university that had a top-ranked school of journalism. Right? That's great, right? Well, every single J school, journalism school major I knew, they always wanted to change the world. Not one of them said, "Oh, I want to uncover the truth and share it with the world." Present the facts, and none of that. It was, "Oh, I want to change the world." I guess it's cool to be idealistic, but get real. So again, came across this article from this independent journalist, one I support via paid subscription. That's very grassroots, right? They, various thousands of individuals supporting a journalist rather than a corporation. The one I support is Jordan Schactel, and I really noticed he's one of the few sane voices out there, especially during the COVID nonsense of the past few years. He was great at poking holes in the official narrative pushed by the mainstream media. As always, I always appreciate someone that swims against the current, isn't a normie, someone who says what's really going on. So yeah, I've subscribed to Jordan's Substack, and I wasn't even sure what the heck a Substack is. So what is it? Substack lets independent writers and podcasters publish directly to their audience and get paid through subscriptions. Wow, maybe I should get into that, but let's jump on. So it's awesome. This is what I like about it. It's decentralized. There's no brokers. There's no middlemen. There's no one that controls a narrative behind the scene. So again, going back to this woke corporate agenda, as I mentioned earlier, the ESG, DEI, used to be DIE, but then they smartened up and changed the letters. It's gone from, obviously you should accept everybody and treat them equally. It's gone beyond that to pushing and promoting and shoving this identity politics in everybody's face. Just because somebody has some immutable characteristics, we have to treat them a certain way, elevate them, rather than just treat them equally. It's un-American, and it's even codified in our Constitution. And imagine rewarding or punishing groups of people, punishing people, as a group on the basis of their identity. And once you focus on one identity, it leaves out another identity. Oh, what about me? I'm XYZ, but none of that. So we need to move beyond that. And another thing about equity is it sounds really nice, but it's a really poisoned word. People think equity is possible. And yes, you are supposed to be treated equally, right? You have equal opportunity, equal rights, but there's never equal results. Equity thinks you can have equal results. It's impossible. Person A and person B, they might be equally protected, have equal rights, but person A, for whatever reason, ends up a hobo on Skid Row. Person B ends up with a nice job, a nice house, 2.3 kids. They're successful. They've got a 401k. They might even have an above ground pool. Well, what happened? There's no equity there. That's just the way it works, right? You can't have equal results with people. When people are the raw ingredients, there's too many variables to have equal results. It's never going to happen. Equal results, the equity movement, they push for equal results for everybody. But that just means deep down inside, they are communists. There's never going to be equity. It's just, sorry, it's not going to happen. So this, there's these companies that are supporting this ESG and DEI movement. And just to rehash it, ESG, environmental and social governance, and DEI, formerly DIE, diversity, equity, and inclusion. These companies are investing with in ESG and DEI focus. It focuses more on feelings, a social agenda, rather than supporting an efficient and effective business. It's putting politics into the business. So why is it bad? For example, ESG will invest in solar, wind power, hydroelectric. Actually, hydroelectric is kind of cool. Rather than, they dreaded an evil petroleum exploration and refinement. Even if that solar and wind power is less stable, less efficient, more expensive, has poorer returns, leads to higher energy prices. Think about that, right? These woke corporations, or this, the woke movement wants to support the working class. Then what happens? There's higher energy prices. Who's paying that? The people, their utility bills. Higher gas prices, because there's less oil and petroleum, exploration and refinement. These ESG companies won't invest in it. It leads to higher gas prices. Well, I don't know who's doing all the shipping. Those Tesla electric powered vehicles, trucks aren't delivering food across the country these days. So higher gas prices lead to higher prices for nearly everything. And all those working class people that the woke movement people type supposedly love, they're getting more and more money sucked out of their wallets every month due to these higher gas prices that leads to higher prices for everything. So to quote the Foundation for Government Accountability, ESG investing prioritize far left woke policy and other non-financial factors as part of the decision to invest in a company. So with the lower returns of ESG investing, they are playing with your ability to build wealth over time. So let me digress a little bit. These powerful forces that are well funded, they invest in companies and then force them to adopt ESG principles. And if they don't, because they have voting shares in the company, if they don't, I don't know, they fight them in the boardroom. And the company is like, hey, I'm trying to make this product, the service, I'm trying to hire the best people, the most qualified, and I want to obviously make a profit and grow over time. Now I got to focus on having wind and solar power that costs more. This is why it's such an insidious and un-American practice. They're foisting and forcing inefficient business practices that have nothing to do with the bottom line. Now, if a company wants to, on their own, invest in solar and wind power, go at it, right? But forcing them, no. So I came across this article from the journalist I support, Jordan Schactel. He wrote a piece in his Substack called How to Defeat and Dismantle the BlackRock Behemoth. Subheader, BlackRock CEO Fink wants to force ESG and DEI into every avenue of the American financial system. That's really how they do it. They buy the shares of these companies and then they force them via vote to engage in these ESG and DEI ventures. So the gist of it, BlackRock is the world. I never even heard of these guys 10 years ago. Now they're everywhere. BlackRock is the world's largest investment firm, and they have about, well, $8-10 trillion under their management. That's a lot of influence. Their CEO, Larry Fink, is a huge proponent of ESG and DEI, and he uses BlackRock's largesse to bully these companies into ESG compliance. Just like I said earlier, they buy shares and they bully these companies around. Okay, so what can us little people, us individuals, the people that BlackRock, is trying to help, and it's just, making everything more expensive. What can we do to push back against these bullies, these BlackRock bullies? Well, Jordan laid out a 4-step plan in his Substack article, how to fight back against BlackRock. Step 1, quote, stop investing your dollars into BlackRock managed ETFs. These are easily identifiable because anything with iShares in it is controlled by BlackRock. iPhone, iPad, iShares, a little lowercase I. If you want to stop Larry Fink and the gang from weaponizing your voting shares, move your value out of these ETFs. End quote. That's right. Let's stop Larry Fink and the gang. Less Larry Fink and the gang, more cool in the gang. So what is an ETF? ETF stands for exchange traded funds. And what does that mean? Well, I looked it up on Investopedia. Who defines it as an exchange traded fund, ETF, is a type of pooled investment security that operates much like a mutual fund. Typically, ETFs will track a particular index, sector, commodity, or other asset. But unlike mutual funds, ETFs can be purchased or sold on a stock exchange the same way a regular stock can. So like when you buy a mutual fund, you buy it on Monday and you don't get it until the end of close when everything's closed. But an ETF, you can just buy it whenever during the day, during the trading hours. So BlackRock has these ETFs that are, supporting the ESG and DEI movement, but they're not the only one. And if you're going to fight this woke nonsense anywhere. You got to fight it everywhere. The second largest money management firm, Vanguard, also has ESG funds. I looked them up. Not all their funds have it. So pull your money out of those funds and put them into specific funds that aren't ESG related. And I got to say, seeing Vanguard drink that ESG Kool-Aid, it really hurts. I'm a big fan of them. They pioneered the index fund concept and low cost investing. They opened up really, powerful investment strategies to the American working class people. Not everyone wants to buy all these individual stocks and whatever. They made investing accessible to people that aren't investing experts. And not only, are these ESG funds, wasting their time and money with these ridiculous ideas, their fees are up to 10 to 15 times higher than their passively managed index funds. So what do we mean by passively managed index funds? Well, maybe you've heard of the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones. Those are all indexes, right? They track the general direction of the stock market. So you see the S&P 500's up, 10 points or down, up 15% for the year. Well, these funds just buy these indexes and they don't manage it. They just go, boom, we buy X amount of each of these 500, companies in S&P 500, and it doesn't cost us any money to run it. So they have these low investment fees, and that's less money taken out of the total return on your investment. So the more money that's taken out of the investment fees, the less your return is on the investments. Over time, that really adds up. So if you have, over 30, 40 years, you're investing and you're paying like 1% fees on your investment, that's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars over time, assuming you've invested a decent amount of money over those years. Okay, so I'm going off. So yeah, these fees are 2 to 15 times higher than those passively managed index funds. So you're getting ripped off, and they're also pushing far left ideology for the pleasure. Again, I put a link in the show notes about the Vanguard funds to avoid. There's even Fidelity, gosh, and I got just so dismayed. I just had to stop looking at these money management firms, whether or not they have ESG in there. So that's step one, is pull your money out of iShares, but go above and beyond that. Look at your Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, whatever. Just pull your money out of those ESG funds and put them into something else. Maybe write your advisor, little Timmy at Vanguard, say, hey, bro, I don't want to be in these, ESG funds. Just letting you know. And because of that, you're making the least amount of money because these low-cost index funds are better for me. None of this woke nonsense. Okay, so step two, how do you fight back against the BlackRock behemoth? Step two, quote, hold your state and local governments accountable and make sure they do not use BlackRock-run investment vehicles. Unfortunately, I would guess that most states do, in fact, use BlackRock instruments, end quote. I got to say, I'm pretty sure that's true. A lot of states invest in BlackRock funds, but there are a few bright spots out there. Never count on the government to do the right thing. They're usually the source of all the problems. And if they're a solution, they're going to do it the least cost effective, the most expensive, and probably just the worst way that, three options, they're going to pick the worst one, right? So, but here's some bright spots in the state and local governments fighting back against BlackRock. One, Florida, under Governor and now presidential candidate Ron DeSantis, they pulled $2 billion out of BlackRock. Now, 2 billion out of 8 to 10 trillion, not so much, but every little bit hurts. So, quote, using Florida's cash to fund BlackRock's social engineering project isn't something we signed up for, tweeted Jimmy Patronis, Florida's chief financial officer, back in December 2022. And again, counting on any sort of government to do the right thing, the effective thing, the American thing, it's usually a futile endeavor. But there's bright spots out there, so maybe I shouldn't be so jaded. Looking at a Fox Business article, from December 2022, titled Republican States Take Drastic Measures in Latest Salvo Against ESG Movement. Again, that's a Fox Business article from December 22. It's now June, so that's 6 months ago. This includes Kentucky, Indiana, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, Ohio, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Texas that are fighting back against Vanguard and BlackRock ESGs. They're asking federal energy regulators to prevent financial institutions from purchasing shares of publicly listed utility companies. I like that. They're getting very specific with the ask. So why are they asking that? Again, these financial money management firms will buy shares in a company, then they get votes, they'll vote in certain ways. And so these ESG firms will push these public utilities to shut down power plants that use, fossil fuels. And again, these fossil fuels are not made out of fossils. There's plenty of them. So they'll shut down these power plants that use fossil fuels and energy forms of energy creation they don't like, and then that leads to higher energy prices. Ooh, let's stick it to those power, those public utilities. Well, they're not going to exactly absorb the cost of the higher prices. They pass it down to the consumer. Who's the consumer? You, me, the working class people out there that the supposedly woke and social justice type people love. They don't really think about that. They think about these greenhouse gases, which I'm pretty sure is a myth. So they care more about the virtual signaling than they do about working class people. These people can't afford an electric cars, or if they can, they're very cost prohibitive, $30,000, $60,000, $70,000. And then higher gas prices. Think about all these working class people. A lot of them drive trucks for a living, or they have to commute a long distance because maybe they live in a lower cost of area and they have to drive further distances. So it's affecting their standard of living. It's affecting their ability to grow their net worth over time, to buy a house, things like that. So that is step 2. Step 3, this one's a little nebulous. Separate money from the state. Quote, so many problems in our society, including BlackRock's corporatist hellscape agenda, is a result of the unification of money and state. BlackRock is a powerful financial and political entity, and because of this, they are offered special access to the money printer. This is entirely unethical, and it goes against the moral and political foundations of the way our system is supposed to work. End quote. Again, I love this, but yet again, I'm not sure how I can help separate money from the state. Take whatever grassroots steps you can think of. If your state and local governments aren't insane, you can write to them. You can fight back in whatever way, against BlackRock, Vanguard's ESG stuff, support anti-ESG measures and put those firms in check. Again, if you're in California, your government's probably going to be insane. But if you're in one of those 14 states, Utah, Kentucky, Indiana, South Dakota, South Carolina, Ohio, etc., you have a fighting chance. And the thing to do is to always take every step possible. Every little bit does help. Again, write your state's chief financial officer, like this one Jimmy Patronis, Florida's chief CFO, is not down with social engineering via investing. So step 3, separate money from the state. It's a little nebulous. Look into that. Step 4, and again, I must advise, this is not financial advice. I'm not any sort of certified financial planner. But Jordan Schactel says, buy Bitcoin. And what interesting timing. BlackRock wants to start a Bitcoin ETF, exchange traded fund, which is stupid. Just buy the actual Bitcoin and hold it yourself. Jordan states, quote, Bitcoin is the most fair, free, robust, distributed, and secure monetary protocol the world has ever known. Bitcoin brings power to the people and leaves the corrupt Wall Street, Washington nexus behind in the process. And I agree, Bitcoin is the fairest monetary instrument out there. It, they can't print more of it. No one can um, take it from you if you have some. No, if you have your own Bitcoin, it can't be suppressed through, a financial institution shutting down your account if you own it. So if you're going to buy Bitcoin, buy it. Buy it through Swan Bitcoin. It's the only Bitcoin purchasing entity I trust. In fact, they encourage you to take it off and hold it in your own hardware keys. So I'll have a little link to that. I think there's some sort of cool little incentive referral on that. So again, not financial advice, but Bitcoin is free, uh, the freest version of currency out there. If you're going to buy some, use it only with money that you can afford to lose. I only say that because that's kind of like what, if you're going to invest in anything, only invest money you can afford to lose. Well, even if you even if you spend $100 on it, that would suck to lose. But I'm optimistic on Bitcoin long term. In fact, when BlackRock announced their application for an exchange traded fund, Bitcoin took a little uptick. And so that's nice to see, even if it's for the wrong reason. Now, I've been talking about how to fight and dismantle an American company, BlackRock, and I think we can all do our part to not buy things that they support or any sort of ESG type of institution. Fight back, and anytime you make that decision, let whoever is involved know. So if you're investing with Vanguard, BlackRock, just pull your money out of BlackRock, or Fidelity, Schwab, just tell them, hey, I pulled my money out of XYZ and I only want it in this because I don't want to support these ESG and DEI measures. But what can you put your money towards to support an American company that is aligned with your values? Well, I just came across a new company called Wild Pastures Meats. And I had to tell, confession, I was buying meat every month from a different meat company. The meat was great. I support what they do because it's all grass-fed, humanely raised, high-quality beef, pork, and chicken. But they weren't American. It was from Australia. And if, it's better than buying it from China or some other country where you can't really trust their standards. Australia has high quality beef, and their grass-fed beef system is very transparent and well run. However, it's time to support the American one. So I've switched over to Wild Pasture Meats. So basically, how these things work is, you go over there, you subscribe, and every month, you can even do it more or less, you get a box of meat that's frozen, individually wrapped, and it's high quality. So the beef, it's grass-fed, pasture-raised, humanely raised. They wasn't sent to some feedlot where they fatten them up with grain, and that's where diseased cows come from. So that's, the E. coli stuff. Cows were meant to eat grass. They were meant to be outside, and they weren't meant to be crowded in these feedlots. So Wild Pasture Meat supports those types of farms. So I put a little referral link in the show notes. So if you buy some, I get it. They're not a sponsor. If you place an order, like I think you get $20 off or some money, I get a little money off. It's a little pat in the back for me. I support them. I've gotten 2 boxes already. The meat is great. So when you buy from Wild Pastures Meat, you're helping support small-scale American farmers, regenerative agriculture, and chemical-free farming practices. Plus, you're helping bring the reality, the Wild Pastures mission of providing truly pasture-raised meat to more people at prices that are fair for our farmers and affordable for our members. I love that. In fact, they should get a high ESG score, but of course, since it's cows, which are supposedly the worst thing ever for the environment, which is totally not true, don't buy it. There have been megafauna on our planet for millions of years. did not lead to any sort of environmental disaster. In fact, I would support bringing back woolly mammoths so we could have more of these megafauna. The way cows are raised on grass-fed regenerative agriculture is totally in line with the natural cycle. I remember growing up in a science class, maybe I don't know if they talk about it now. I don't know if they talk about actual science, but there's the water cycle. The water evaporates. It goes up, it forms a cloud, and then it rains, and then it rain feeds all the plants. Well, the cows are part of that. A cow is born, the water rains, the grass grows, they eat the grass, they grow. Eventually, at some point, we kill that cow, and it gives us the most nutritious, health-supporting food on the planet. These ESG funds are, they're trying to support this lab-grown meat, which is where they take crops and grains that are grown, monocrops, where thousands and thousands of acres of one single crop that are heavily fertilized, uses a ton of resources, ton of water, chemicals, fossil fuels, and they take that and it's all in a lab and then chemically treated and pushed. It way more energy intensive than taking a cow, letting it grow as aligned with the natural process as it's been for millions of years. So please, if you do subscribe to Wild Pastures Meats, let me know. Let me know what you think about it. You're going to be aligned with the way nature, evolution, or whatever you believe in God intended. So again, this is Lars at UnCommie Goods. Fighting the enemy within, and then while you're doing that, support businesses aligned with the American spirit. These small farmers, I want to support those guys. I don't want to support the giant agribusiness growing peas. So they form, pea protein, canola oil, all that stuff's terrible. Get back to the basics. Small farmers, break up BlackRock, fight this ESG nonsense. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like, subscribe, leave a little comment. If you buy this Wild Pasture Meats, let me know what you think about it. And just tell them that you support small businesses like that. Again, feel free to write me at hello@UnCommie Goods. Would love to get any feedback. What are your thoughts? Are you going to fight ESG, DEI stuff? Let's focus on the basics. Business is business. The law is the law. Everyone's supposed to be treated equally. Results may vary. That's a tough truth, but it's the American way. Again, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff.